Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Capnclydes MTG. We are back, and well, a little late, not gonna lie, but let's get into it for the leaks of Thunder Junction. So here we go. We're gonna start off with Rakdos joins up. We have a red, black, and 3. Legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with additional +2/+2 counters on it. Okay, basic animation spell. Whenever a legendary creature you control dies, Rakdos joins up, deals damage equal to that creature's power to target opponent. This is just okay. I think it's going to be fine if you look at it in a way of it's an animation spell or reanimation spell from your graveyard. That's just to give you something a little extra. So there's that. Next we have Karabek, the Punisher. That's right, he's back. 2 black and 1 for a 3/3. Whenever you commit a crime, exile up to 1 target black card from your graveyard and copy it. You may cast this turn. If you do, you lose 2 life. This seems really powerful. Not gonna lie. 3 mana 3/3 is already okay. The fact that any black, it says target black cards, so it could even be creatures. So that's real good. You just got to be able to target your opponent. I think in Commander, this is probably going to be a pretty good card. Next, we have Baron Bertram Greywater. God, I'd like that name. Anyway, black, white, and 2 for a 3/4. Whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 black vampire rogue creature token with lifelink. Whew, that's a sentence. This ability only triggers once each turn for a black and 1. Sacrifice another creature or artifact. Draw a card. Great for limited. Probably okay for standard. But all in all, in Commander, this is probably going to be house. I'm not even going to lie. All right, next we have Demonic Ruckus. Red and 1 enchant creature. Creature gets +1/+1, has menace and trample. When it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. And you can plot it for 1, which means you just got to wait a turn to cast it. This seems insanely good on a lot of levels. I'm not even going to lie. I don't see, Red Rush probably should be playing this because it can be cast for 1 on a later turn. Plus, it draws a card. I think this is just a great card all over. Yeah. Older formats, this isn't necessary, doesn't do enough, but Commander, Standard, especially Limited All-Star, yeah, this is good stuff. We got Gold Rush, green and 1. You get to create a treasure token until end of turn. Up to 1 target creature gets +2/+2 for each treasure you control. Ooh, So this is a new take on creature growth we haven't seen yet using treasure tokens, and this could be a big deal. It's going to guarantee you a +2/+2, but there's a chance that if you're running some kind of treasure strategy, that this could just be insanely large for 2 mana. Next, we have Bridled Bighorn, a white and 3 for a 3/4. It's got Vigi. Whenever it attacks while saddled, you get a 1/1 sheep. Saddles for 2. Good common for limited. Probably about as far as they'll go. Next, we have the old Razzle Dazzle. Blue and 1 for a 1/2 human wizard. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, it gets a counter, and it can't be blocked this turn. Okay card. Might be okay in standard if there's a deck that can use it. Great for limited. There's some older decks that do weird stuff like this, where they just want to, protect the queen kind of strategy. Might be good enough. Now we have Fake Your Own Death. Oh, poor Tiny Bones. Black and 1. Until the end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains. When it dies, return to the battlefield tapped, and you create a treasure token. So this is basically a reprint of the same kind of card from other sets. Next, we have Lila Undefeated Slick Shot. Interesting title. Red, blue, and 1 for a 3/3 prowess. Whenever Whenever you cast a multicolor instant or sorcery spell from your hand, exile that spell instead of putting it in your graveyard as it resolves. If you do, it becomes plotted. Ooh, that's good. So this pretty much gives rebound, or the ability to cast a spell a second time, to any spell you cast that's multicolored. Now, this also includes counter spells. There are multicolor counter spells that this can be very broken with. You counter spell on your turn to stop them from doing something. Counter spell on their turn after you have your stuff resolved, or counter spell on their turn, it gets plotted. Now on your turn, you can use it again and any time after your turn. And that's just one thing. I mean, there's instant speed damage spells, instant speed kill spells, all multicolored. I think this is going to have a very big impact on Commander. Maybe even Standard, depending on how many multicolored spells we get. Because this could be a thing. This is going to be sweet. Next we have This Town Ain't Big Enough. A blue and 4. The spell costs 3 less to cast. If you control, if it targets a permanent you control, return up to 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. Okay. So you get to bounce 2 things. If you bounce 2 things and they don't belong to you, it costs 5. If one of the things you target is yours, it costs 2. And we've seen a spell like this before for 2, so not too bad. Next, we have the Luxurious Locomotive. Here's what they're doing a train heist on. 5 colorless for a 6/5. Whenever it attacks, you make a treasure token. For each creature that crewed it, it only crews for 1. But you can crew this thing. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Activate only once each turn. Okay, so you can't just tap your whole field into it and make a bunch of treasure tokens. Well, at least they fixed that part. That was about to be broken. But you can do it on other people's turns, so there's that. Does seem good, though. Great for limited. Probably okay for Commander, but honestly, probably not going to see much playing Standard. Next, we have Sheriff of Safe Passage. White and 2. When it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, plus an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each other creature you control. So this is kind of like Thalia's Lieutenant, except it's for everything, and it's an uncommon. This seems really powerful for 3. It's at least a 1/1 at worst. Probably going to be a 2/2. I'm kind of down with this. I like it, but 3 mana does hurt it a lot, so limited, definitely an all-star. You can plot it, so there's that. I think I'll see Standard play, but other than that, maybe some Commander. Next we have Neutralize the Guards. A black and 2 instant. Creatures your opponent controls get -1/-1, and you surveil 2. For 3 mana, that seems pretty bad. Next we have the old Canyon Crab. I think we've seen this already. Blue and 1 for an 0/5. For a blue and 1, it gets +2/-2. You give your end step. If you haven't cast a spell on this turn, you get to draw a card, then discard. I mean, it's going to be okay. Red Rock Sentinel. Look at that bad boy. 3 colorless 2/4 defender. That for 2 mana and tapping, sacrifice a land, draw a card, and create a treasure token, which is kind of cool because you get the land back, kind of, sort of, with the treasure rebate. But at the end of the day, you're still sacrificing a land. So probably great for limited. Pretty sure it is. That's probably as far as it's going to go. Next, we have the Treasure Dredger. Well, that's a name. Black and 1 for a 2/2. For 1 and tapping it and paying a life, you can make a treasure token. We've seen this on a rare before, but it's also a good card to attack with. So this is probably good for limited. About it. Yeah. So we get the words with the stuff. Just kidding. We did translate this little fella for you, so don't worry. What it actually says is Scalestorm Summoner. Red and 2 for a 3/3. Decent rate. Whenever it attacks, you create a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. So, it's just okay. Great for limited, as it can pump out some guys. I mean, it may see standard play, but I doubt it because normally if you're playing stuff that's 4 or bigger in standard, normally broken in some stretch of the imagination. Um, and this would rely on it already being on the battlefield, meaning you're probably already winning. So, yeah. All right, moving on. Next, we have Brimstone Roundup. A red and 1. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token. You tap it, it gets +1/+0 sorcery. You can also plot the enchantment for 3. Okay. I was gonna say, why would you plot it? But I guess you plot it so, like, you could, play this for free and your second card cast and get your 1/1. I do like this. We haven't had a red card that made tokens like this before. Seems powerful, and not gonna lie, can be good. But in red, you often run out of draw power, so might be hard to put real use to this. But hey, multicolor decks and Commander, this could be house. Next, we have Requisition Raid. So 1 white spree card. White and 1, you can destroy an artifact. For another 1, you can destroy an enchantment. And for another 1, you can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls. It's a sorcery, so it's not as good as Disenchant, but it is close to as good. Only because it has an extra option of pumping your whole team. So we'll probably see play some way, shape, or form in several formats. So there's that. Next we have ooh boy, Mirror of the Wilds. We'll just go with that. White, green, and red for a 3/3 with haste. Non-token creatures you control have tap. Create a token that's a copy of target token you control that entered the battlefield this turn. Good for a token deck. It'll be okay. I don't think it's gonna see a lot of play in general unless it's Commander. Just putting it out there. Next we have Ty Walking, Perfect Shot. Red and white for a 2/3, decent stats. Whenever a source you control deals combat damage, whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to a creature equal. Okay, so whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to a creature equal to that creature's toughness, draw a card. Okay. So basically, if you kill something with the exactsies of non-creature damage, you get to draw a card. X and tap. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a permanent or player this turn, it deals that much plus X. So that will let you basically make you be able to draw a card by rounding the number up to whatever damage you need. Seems fine. Might be good in standard. Next we have Railway Brawler. 2 green and 3 for a 5/5 with reach and trample. Wow. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is its power. It blocks for 4. Mean Green's getting some killer cards in this set. Holy cow. Yeah, I mean, this is probably, if green does become a thing, this will see play. Yes, it's 5 mana. But in standard, 5 mana is not too much, and 5/5 with this ability, plus the ability to cast it for 4 on a plot, it's just insanely good. Next, we have Pillage the Bog, black and green. Sorcery, look at top X cards in your library, where X is twice the number of lands you control. Put one of them in your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Plot it for 3. This is insanely good. This will be a 4 of in any black-green deck because it says pick a card out of top X cards of your deck. For 2 mana, it's not as good as Sleight of Hand because you can look at 2 cards on turn 2, pick 1. However, wait a minute. X is twice the number of lands you control. This is better than Sleight of Hand because you look at the top 4 if you cast it as early as possible. You only get 1, but this card is amazing. I expect to see a lot of play from this in Standard, Commander. This may make it into some of the older formats because 2 mana is not all that much, and the ability to have 2 or 3 land out and looking at the top 4 to 6 cards for the 1 card you need may just be good enough. Next, we have Take for a Ride. Red and 2. Take for a Ride has flash as long as you've committed a crime this turn. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste. So the cool thing about this is if your opponent's going to attack you, and you have a way to commit a crime, i.e. damage them, person they control, or a creature they control, whatever. They swing out, you, generic terms, bolt their creature, you kill their creature, and you've now committed a crime. You may then cast Take for a Ride, steal their best creature, or the creature you know will die, blocking their best creature. Take their creature, it untaps, you can then block with it. We haven't had a steal spell like this before, I don't think. And it's only 3, not 4 mana. This seems very good in Limited. I mean, sadly enough, it probably won't see much play outside of Limited, but this is definitely a card you'll have to watch out for at pre-release. We have Magebane Lizard. Red and 1 for a 1/4. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, the lizard deals 1 damage to that player, equal to the number of non-creature spells they've cast this turn. Wow, so this is kind of cool. Probably won't do a whole lot in some formats. In Commander, it would be kind of neat. Will be a great sideboard card in Modern against any kind of deck trying to pop off with a Storm deck or just a deck that plays a lot of spells in general. Because they'll take 1, then 2, then 3. Like, this card might just kill somebody, like, just flat out by itself. Next, we have Assimilation Aegis. Blue, white, and 1. Equipment. Whenever it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target creature until it leaves the battlefield. Whenever it becomes attached to a creature, for as long as it remains attached to it, that creature becomes a copy of the creature exiled. That's pretty cool. So it's kind of like a detention sphere that will let you change whatever creature you put it on into whatever you took. Kind of cool. I mean, worst case scenario, it's a removal spell. Best case scenario, you steal their Atraxa, and all of a sudden you have a giant 7/7 creature you're going to punch him in the face with. Seems really good. I can see why it's a mythic. Next, we have Hellspur Posse Boss. Okay. 2 red and 2 for a 2/4. Other outlaws you control have haste. Okay. When it enters the battlefield, you get to create create 2 1/1 red mercenaries, which are outlaws. So they have haste. So if you cast him, you get 2 1/1s that can attack, or they use their ability to pump. I mean, fine for Limited. I don't see it doing anything else, though. Just doesn't do enough. We have Ariti's Lullaby, I guess. White and 1, destroy target tap creature. You gain 2 life. Basic removal spell for Limited. We have Steer Clear. It's funny to get it. Steer Clear. Anyway, 1 white instant deals 2 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Deals 4 damage to that creature instead if you controlled a mount as you cast a spell. Good for Limited. About it. We have Vengeful Townfolk. White and 2 for a 3/3. Not bad. Whenever 1 or more other creatures you control die, put a +1/+1 counter on the Townfolk. All right, so it's a better Unruly Mob. It's going to be great for Limited. Next, we have Slickshot Vault Buster. Blue and 2 for a 1/4 Vigilance. Gets +2/+0 as long as you've committed a crime this turn. It's fine for Limited. Black Snag Buzzard. Black and 2 for a 2/1 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, a +1/+1 counter on it. If a creature died this turn, you can plot it. Again, fine for Limited. Probably about as far as it's going to go. We have Raven of the Fell Omens. Black and 1 for a 1/2. Flying, whenever you commit a crime, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. Only triggers once each turn. Since it only triggers once each turn, it's just okay. Probably don't see a whole lot of play, because once a turn, it will add up if you especially have extra ones of these, but it probably just won't do enough to be played outside of Limited. Next, we have Discerning Peddler. Red and 1 for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. And we've seen that basically. It's a good Limited card. Mind Raider. Red and 2 for a 3/2 Trampler. When it enters the battlefield, if you control another outlaw, make a treasure. Good for Limited. Reckless Lackey, red for a 1/2, first strike and haste. Oh, hello. A red and 2, sacrifice Reckless Lackey. Draw a card, create a treasure. I think this is a great card for Pauper. First strike, haste, 1 red. It's not going to be better than Monastery Swiftspear because no prowess, but the ability for it to replace itself and make a treasure if it gets outdated by what's on the battlefield is pretty cool. And with Swiftspear being banned in Pauper, this might be its replacement. Next, we have Bristlepack Sentry, green 1 for a 3/3 defender. If you control something 4 or greater, it doesn't have defender anymore, so you can attack with it. Basic limited card, it's okay. Patient Naturalist, green and 2 for a 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. Put a land card from among the mill cards into your hand. If you can't, create a treasure. Fine for limited, I guess. Tumbleweed Rising, green and 1 sorcery. Create an XX green elemental creature token where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Plot for 3. Okay for limited. Next, we have Gold Pan. I'm glad to see this. 2 Cuddless. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Equip creature gets +1/+1. Great for limited. I mean, 2 mana to do some mana fixing. Plus it can pump a creature. Seems good. Stingerback Terror, red and 2 for 7/7 flying trampler. Hello. It does get -1/-1 for each card in your hand. However, you can plot it for 3. And if you're on the draw, it will come in at a decently sized creature later in the game. This is going to be the one card that's going to make Red Rush a playable archetype in Standard. Because you empty your hand fast, but you don't have big stuff after that. And make it a 7/7 because your hand's empty and you draw this off the top or you plotted it is just going to be absurd. I expect us to see lots of play in Standard. Next, we see Shackle Slinger. Blue and 2 for a 3/2. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, choose a target creature an opponent controls. If it's tapped, put a stun counter on it. Otherwise, tap it. Interesting. Good for limited. I don't think it's going to see anything past that, but cool card. Rise of the Varmints. Green and 3. Create X 2/1 green varmint creature tokens, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. This is cool. I ain't gonna lie. Good green card. I mean, if the opponent's just board wiping you, cast this one time and it's just game on. Holy cow. So, yeah. Next, we have Slick Sequence. Red and blue. It deals 2 damage to any target. If you've cast another spell this turn, draw a card. Wow. This is the ideal card for blue. Blue-red. I don't know how much play it's going to see. But, I mean, 2 damage and draw a card for 2 mana is really good. I think there's going to be a lot of new archetypes coming out. I mentioned Red Rush. This might be a good card for the Scorpion 7/7 guy. Yes, this draws a card, keeps your hand full, but sometimes you got to dig to him to find him. So this seems good for Standard. Really good. Good for limited, too. Just point that out there. Russell Rampage. 1 white spree card. White and 1 will get you untap all creatures target player controls. Gee, what player would that be? And for another +1, target creature gains double strike to the end of turn. Good combat trick for limited. I think it might be as far as it goes, though. Maybe Commander. Irascible Wolverine. Is even saying that right? Red and 3 for a 3/2. Whenever it enters the battlefield, exile top card of your library. Until the end of turn, you may play that card. Okay. It plots for the same amount of mana, so you can guarantee the ability to play the card. Great for limited. Don't know if it'll see Standard play, but has promise. Forsaken Miner. I'm digging this. 1 black for a 2/2. Can't block. Whenever you commit a crime, you may pay a black. If you do, return the miner from the graveyard to the battlefield. This is just cool. It is in black, so it might need to be in black-red to do kind of a quick, I'm going to punch you in the face kind of deck. But just the fact that committing a crime lets you get it back for an extra black is really cool. I because you got to pay a black, it'll be really hard to get a combo off with this without some kind of mana manipulation. But just the fact that we'll have something like this as standard is kind of cool. I'm kind of interested to see if it actually comes into play. Next, we have Djinn of Fool's Fall. Blue and 4 for a 4/3 flying, and it plots for 4. Just a good limited card. I mean, you plot it, put it on play next turn, whatever. We have Dance of the Tumbleweeds. Green and 1 spree card. For an extra +1, so for 3, you can search your library for a basic land card or desert, put it on the battlefield tapped. Or put it on the battlefield, not even tapped. That's pretty good. For green 1 and 3 colorless, create a XX green elemental creature token where X is the number of lands you control. For 6, you can get both. That seems like a real good card for limited. I would say Commander, but there's too many cards in Commander for 3 that do a lot more than this, and there's stuff for 2 that does the exact same, so We have the Boneyard Desecrator, black and 3 for a 3/4 menace. Black and 1, sacrifice another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on the Desecrator. If an outlaw was sacrificed this way, create a treasure token. That's kind of cool, especially making 1/1 red menace tokens and really power this guy up. So, yeah, great for limited. Next we have, it's Drawf, the Fleshright. This time he's blue and 2 for a 2/3. Whenever you cast a spell during your turn other than your first spell that turn, create a 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature token. Whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other zombie that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. Holy cow. So if you cast 3 spells in a turn, first spell you get nothing. Second spell, you get a 2/2. It's whenever a zombie enters the battlefield, +1/+1 counter for each other zombie that entered the battle. Okay, so the second spell gets you a 2/2, the third spell a 3/3, a fourth spell a 4/4. You may not be able to do a whole lot with this in standard, even though I think it might be good enough for standard, just be out because a flood of 2/2s is normally good enough to kill somebody. Great for limited, although probably hard to manipulate the ability. Commander, hello nurse. This is going to get out of hand quick. Yeah, you Commander guys out there maybe picking these guys up while they're cheap. Next, we have Outlaw Stitcher. Blue and 3 for a 1/4. When it enters the battlefield, you get a 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue. Then you put 2 +1/+1 counters on that token for each spell that you've cast this turn other than the first. Wow. I mean, okay for limited. I don't think this will see a lot of play, though, because it's really expensive. It's 4 mana, 5 to plot. I mean, maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Next, we have Beastbound Outcaster. So, when it enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. It plots for 2. Wow. So 2 mana 3/3 at the worst. Or a 3 mana 3/3, or 2 mana 3/3 on a later turn. That lets you draw a card. This seems really good for standard and limited. I mean, Commander might want something like this, but to be honest with you, Commander's probably doing better things than this. I'm just going to put that out there. Next, we have Intrepid Stablemaster. Green and 1, reach. Taps for a green. It's a 2/2. Add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast mount or vehicle spells. This seems busted as hell. Just because 2 mana of any color to cast mount and vehicle spells is mana ramp on this creature. It's not legendary. It has reach. If you don't have anything to do with it, it's a 2/2, not a 1/1. It can do some damage. I think this is going to see a lot of play in standard, limited, probably even some Commander play if you're playing a mount/vehicle heavy Commander deck, because this is some of the best mana ramp there's going to be. Next, we have Cabal Greedy Mare. White, black, and 1. Human Advisor, 2/4. Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may create a tapped copy of each of those tokens. This ability triggers only once each turn. Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses life, you gain a life. So whenever 1 or more tokens, create a copy of each. All right, so if you make 1 token, it happens 1 time, you get 1 token. If they make 3 at once, you get 3. That's how this works. And every token enters the battlefield, they lose a life, you gain a life. This is really powerful. It's going to see some standard play in some white-black decks because if you guys haven't been watching the standard metagame, Boros Convoke makes crap tons of tokens, and this will really combat that. Plus, as a 2-4, it blocks almost the entire deck. So I expect this to see play. It may not seem relevant to a lot of you guys, but trust me, in standard it will be. And Commander, I mean, you got 3 people to, slap tokens off of. Who wouldn't want this? Next, we have one more round. White and 2 and XX. Sorcery. Exile any number of creatures you control, then return those creature cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. Repeat the process X times. I don't think this is going to do a whole lot in standard. It's a lot of mana. Now in Commander, there could be some serious shenanigans going on with this. As you do the blinky, blinky, repeaty, repeaty, with lots of mana. So yeah, probably just a good Commander card. Next we have Marauder's Hall, 3 colorless artifact. Whenever you commit a crime, put a loot counter on it. This only triggers once each turn. You can tap it, add 1 mana of any color. For 2 and tapping and removing 2 loot counters, you can draw a card. Okay for limited. I mean, it is a mana rock that fixes anything. I would say be good for Commander, but I don't think it will be. It's a 3 mana rock, and you gotta juice it up by hitting your opponents, which normally causes them to hit you back. So I don't mean physically hit them like with combat. I'm referring to committing a crime, which is you target them, their creatures. Either way, if you target your opponent, the shenanigans will ensue, and it may not be worth you getting loot counters. So, yeah, let's just not go there. Next, we have Nimble Brigand, blue and 2 for a 1/3. Can't be blocked if you committed a crime this turn. Whenever it deals combat damage, draw a card. So there may be in limited draft or what have you a blue deck that can't be blocked, lets you draw cards, do lots of damage, make treasure tokens from the feel of it. So probably decent and limited. That's probably about it. Next we have Hellspur Brute, red and 4, affinity for outlaws, 5/4 trampler. This is cool for limited. Make you some tokens, make you some cheap outlaws, and then tap them and make this, or not even tap them, it just has affinity. You might be able to get this bad boy out for 1 red. Luckily, it's only outlaws, because if this was usable in Boros Convoke, it would be, ooh, God. Next, we have Smuggler's Surprise, 1 green spree card. So for a green and 2, you can mill 4 cards. You may then put up to 2 creature cards and or land cards from among them from the mill cards in your hand. Okay, so 2 creature and or land. Okay, so you can pick 2 cards of any type out of the 4. For an extra green and 4, which would be 6 mana, you may put up to 2 creature cards from your hand on the battlefield. Ooh. For green and 1, creatures you control power 4 or greater gain hexproof, indestructible until end of turn. This is an insanely good card. This is going to see play in several formats. Definitely Commander. The whole for 6 put big stuff on battlefield may never happen. It may happen in standard once or twice. It'll probably never happen where for 7 mana you can mill 4 cards, pick up 2 creatures from them, and put them directly on the battlefield. But just the ability for this to be a creatures you control gain hexproof indestructible with power 4 or greater to end of turn may be good enough to make this a playable card. There's lots of good options on this card. I just think this is going to see a lot of play because there's so many different things it does that are all good and yet are good in different forms of decks. But at the same time, those decks kind of want these same abilities. So I have high hopes for this card. I think it's going to be pretty good. Next, we have Shoot the Sheriff. Black and 1. Destroy target non-outlaw creature as an instant. This is really cool. I think it will be not as good as we think. Because a lot of assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, warlocks, and outlaws will be in the set. And some of the older cards are, in fact, mercenary, rogues, or outlaws. It won't be like the kill any creature that's not a vampire card. I think it's go for the throat. And also, too, we have better cards for around this mana cost right now. And in this format where everything's about assassins, mercenaries, and pirates, it'll be hard to make this very viable. But it is playable. Next, we have Terror of the Peaks. This bad boy, not only is this art phenomenal, red, 3 colorless for a 5/4 flyer, spells your opponent's casts that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. Boy, we haven't seen this reprint in a while. I mean, not really a reprint, but it is a reprint. You know what I mean? Like, this has been, cards like this have been staples in the format for a long time. And it really given rise to a lot of dragons in here. I'll kind of wonder if it can be a dragon deck. But anyway, point being, great for limited. Amazing card for commander. May even see some standard play. But the only thing holding it back other than that is the fact it's 5 mana. This card's just obscenely good. Just obscenely good. Next, we have the Outcaster Trailblazer, green and 2 for a 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, add 1 mana of any color, so you get a rebate. And whenever another creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. You can plot it. You can play it for 3 to begin with. If you plot it, you can cast a 5 power creature on turn 4. I'm sorry, excuse me. If you plot it, you can cast on turn 4, as long as you get your land drops. A creature that costs 5 mana, which is insanely good because you could play this first, and that 5 mana creature is probably going to have power 4 or greater. So you're probably going to draw a card, and now you've got 2 giant things on the battlefield. This seems really powerful for limited. And this is probably going to be one of the cards that really brings to life the fact that it could be a mean green mono deck for green. Very powerful. Be great in standard. Also, could be good in commander. Not gonna lie there. Mana rebates, drawing cards for big nappies. Yeah, it's things happen. So, with all that said, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I do appreciate it. And until next time, be kind. And as always, I hope to see you crossing the game table.